Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, July 31st. LA Galaxy 2-1 losers. How they lost that game, I will never know. 2-1 losers to the Vancouver Whitecaps. It was a very comfortable game for the LA Galaxy until it wasn't. We're going to talk about that game and sort of talk about what the LA Galaxy now have in store for themselves as they look ahead to playing now 20 days without a game. Remember, we told you it was important they stay in the tournament? They did not. Now we get to talk about that and what the ramifications are that going to be. Transfer issues, all that sort of stuff is in there as well. So, want to get to a whole bunch of it, but before we do any of that, we want to talk to the man who is currently down under in Auckland, New Zealand, getting ready for the U.S. and Portugal coming up here in the Women's World Cup in just, it's going to be really early for us. But nonetheless, coming up in just a little bit, it's Kevin the Panda Baxter. Kev, you're upside down, Kev.
I'm down under.
You are down under. What? It's amazing the fun things we can do with video programming and everything. Are your arms tired from having to do handstands everywhere, I would imagine?
Well, the flight down here, they're really tired from the flight down here. By the way, I appreciate Michael Araujo doing the intro from Atlanta where he's hanging out with the Angels. That was great.
Yeah, Mike can travel around, man. Mike was in Japan earlier this year as well. He has a good time. It's always nice to see Mike whenever he doesn't have to do announcing, get away and travel. And so him and his wife do that well.
And anyone who's watching this probably notices I don't have my helicopter pilot headphones on because, see, I am actually in the future. There it is.
Oh, it says exercise. It says.
There it is, yeah. 3:03 in the afternoon. Because of the time-space continuum, apparently the headphones did not work from down here. So
that's right. So
we're doing it en natural.
That's right. Well, I mean, tell me, we were talking just before we started. You and I haven't really gotten to talk face-to-face here for a little while. This is what I call face-to-face now. I don't actually need to see people in person for this to be a face-to-face. But tell me about...
By the way, before you go there, I just went down the elevator here at the hotel, and a lot of the media are here. And Caitlin Murray from ESPN, she got on the elevator, and I said, I've got to get back upstairs. I got to do a podcast. And she goes, you do an LA Times podcast? I said, well, no. It's not really an LA Times. It's a MLS one. She goes, is that Corner of the Galaxy with Josh Guesman? That's my favorite MLS podcast.
She did not say that. Did you pay her to say that?
She absolutely said that. However, she did say that. However, she was surprised I was on the podcast as a guest host. So that tells you the last time she listened was about 11 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Kevin's been a host for a while, but very good. Well, tell me about Auckland, New Zealand, and the Women's World Cup so far before we get into the doldrums of the LA Galaxy.
Well, I think the last time I was on the pod, I was at the Homeless World Cup and I was bagging on Sacramento. I'm looking out my window now. This is not Sacramento. Auckland, of all the places I've been, this is my 7th World Cup. I've been to 4 Olympics, traveled a lot in Latin America for baseball, a couple of Pan American games. This is the one place that I would move to without a second thought. Auckland is amazing. It's a foodie's paradise. It's a very diverse place. You'll hear 4 or 5 languages walking down the street. It's really laid back. It's a city of 1.7 million people, so it's big. But it's just an amazing place. The weather right now is a little chill, which I'm not going to talk about because you guys would get really jealous with the heat you've had.
It was like it wasn't like ridiculously hot today, but it was like Florida humidity, and we were waiting for the thunderstorms type of thing. So I'm still waiting. I think some people down south got some thunderstorms. I don't know that we've gotten any rain, but I'm in a room with the windows closed, so who knows? But yes, continue.
Yeah, this place is beautiful. We did go to Wellington for one game. We've been in Auckland. The U.S. played its opener in Auckland. We went to see New Zealand play the first game of the tournament here in Auckland. Then we went to Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand,
Right.
About an hour flight away. They call it Windy Welly. It's the windiest city in the world based on average wind speed.
Oh.
And it lived up to its reputation. It was extremely cold. The hotels were terrible. A lot of good restaurants again. But we're glad here to be in Auckland. Tonight, the U.S. and Portugal, everything on the table. If the U.S. wins, they advance. But they could also finish second in the group if the Netherlands passes them on goal differential. The U.S. is ahead by 2 goals in the differential right now, and the Netherlands plays against Vietnam. So I think we're going to probably be doing a split screen thing there at the end. If the U.S. wins the group, they go to Sydney. If they lose the group or finish second, they go to Melbourne. And if Portugal wins the game, the U.S. come home.
Right.
It'll be the first time they've ever eliminated in the group stage. But this World Cup, if you've been following it, it's been amazing. Colombia beat Germany. New Zealand is out. Canada is the first reigning Olympic champion to be eliminated in the group stage. Spain lost to June Endo in Japan yesterday, 4-0.
Right.
Australia, without Sam Kerr, managed to get through to the second stage by beating Canada. It's been the most exciting and most competitive Women's World Cup. Could the U.S. lose? They probably won't. But given everything else that's gone on here, they could. And by the way, speaking of old Galaxy people, I was walking around downtown yesterday and ran into Servando Carrasco.
Oh, nice.
I was walking down this cute little alley with a bunch of restaurants, and somebody called I had been messaging with Servando for a couple of days, and someone called to me and said, Kevin, and I turned around and it was Servando, and he introduced me to his brother and his sister-in-law, and then his wife, Servando's wife, came around the corner with the baby.
That girl.
I think she played. Yeah, she played for I think she had something to do with the national team.
Yeah.
And I decided that.
So you were talking. So you were talking to Alex Morgan's husband, is who you were talking.
Yes,
about.
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
then,
checking.
Then his wife showed up, and she said hello to me, and I kind of left it there because the last thing that the captain of the U.S. national team needs the day before the game is for some reporter to start haranguing her on her private time. So I beat a hasty retreat.
Yes, absolutely. It makes some sense. Well, very good. I think it's been less followed here. I know there's a lot of diehards who are watching, but obviously the time difference causing some issues. I haven't got to watch a whole bunch of games either, and so that type of thing. But I've heard that it's great. So,
by the way, yeah, it's been really some of the games, and it's unfortunate because, for example, the Colombia-Germany game was amazing, and Brazil's last game, where they played France, that was maybe the best women's soccer match I've ever seen. This place right here, Auckland, is filled, our hotel especially, but Auckland itself is filled with American fans. I was walking around downtown again today, everywhere, people with USA stuff on, and then you see a lot of people with NWSL sweatshirts, a lot of San Diego Wave, a lot of Angel City, a lot of, I saw some OL Reign stuff. So definitely a lot of people here from the States. A
lot of fun. Well, good. Well, we hope that you enjoy the game today. You'll get to cover that. And of course, I think what time is that playing our time here on the West Coast? Is it 3 a.m.?
Midnight.
Oh, so
Kicks
midnight.
off at midnight.
So you have to stay up late for this one.
That's not too bad. You guys can make it. You can make it.
I didn't make it to the game on last night on Sunday because I have a cold, so I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll have Kevin here for about another 20 minutes, and then he'll have to take off and start heading his way towards covering that game. So we'll let him go whenever he needs to go, and then we'll finish up anything or close up any loose ends. I don't think we're going to have a super long show here. Have to talk about the LA Galaxy's loss, and I think that's important to do. 2-1 loss to the Vancouver Whitecaps. Here's the crazy thing. The Galaxy were so comfortable in that game, Kevin. They were able to move Vancouver around. Greg Vanney went and moved Douglas Costa a little more centrally with the absence of Gaston Brugman and his injury. They had to sort of be an adjustment that they were going to make to sort of cover up for Brugman's ability to put the through balls through and sort of combine with Puig. And I think the decision was made to move Douglas Costa a little bit closer, right? That was sort of the idea. If we do that and move him into the center more, and maybe he can be a little more playmaker for us, it narrows the attacking, and you have to get a lot more from Caligari, who I thought had a good game going up and down the right-hand side. So you have to get more from Caligari on the outside in order to keep width. But, I thought moving Costa into the center was a good move and sort of something that I thought Vancouver had no answer for. But quite honestly, Kevin, Vancouver had no answer for most of this during the night. They looked toothless. They looked like they couldn't score. I'm still amazed they scored 2 goals. And by the way, some of the luckiest 2 goals you're ever going to see. But honestly, the Galaxy's fault for leaving them hanging around.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Galaxy dominated the game, time of possession, shots, everything.
Yep.
And one of the goals was an own goal.
Yes.
You know, you mentioned Caligari had a good game
Yep.
off that corner kick, just kind of an unlucky play. You know, Charles Bone, by the way, of MLS, wrote the other day that the Galaxy.
I retweeted this. I was with you, Charlie and I are friends. So whenever I saw him say this, he was. But go ahead, you can continue.
Yeah, no, go ahead. He said they're the best team that he's ever seen.
The worst team he's ever seen. The
Yeah.
best worst team. And we've been saying that we're saying there's too much talent on this team for them to be bad. The bottom line is the Galaxy dominated that from almost every way that you could. I thought that in the first half they could have easily scored 2 or 3 goals. I think if they had a striker in there, and it's the same thing that we've been going over, it sounds like a broken record. I said this Galaxy team will go as far as their inability to have a number 9 sort of be any sort of impact on these games. You're not seeing. It doesn't matter if it's Joveljic, it doesn't matter if it's Judd. And quite honestly, I don't know why we're projecting that either of those guys have to save the Galaxy. I don't think you should expect Preston Judd or Dejan Joveljic to save the Galaxy in the way that they have. They weren't those players and they aren't those players. So they're really playing well above, water's way over, I think, both of their heads. Joveljic regressing to the mean big time. In fact, one of the worst, expected goals numbers this year in all of Major League Soccer for somebody who has as many minutes as he does. Got in some good positions, Kevin. No finishing. The Galaxy did pass around some shots, and I also thought took some bad shots as well. But bottom line is there were enough chances in that game, Kevin. The Galaxy could have easily scored 3 goals, and really all they needed was a second one. The second one puts that game out of reach, and it depletes Vancouver, who played horribly through 80 minutes of that match.
And now we're in a situation where now with that loss, as you mentioned earlier, it was very important for the Galaxy to get out of the group stage, at least out of the group stage. They didn't have to go any further, really. But now they have 3 weeks off, and people look at that and say, well, yeah, with the injuries, that's a good thing. Not really, because the injured players, Cáceres, Chicharito, Brugman, they're not coming back. They're not going to benefit from this.
Brugman could come back. We still don't know what kind of procedure he's going to have. And I know that they haven't put Cáceres on the season-ending injury list, but I don't expect him to have a real big impact.
Realistically, it would be the point is they're not going to benefit. They're not going to be back in 3 weeks, so they're not going to benefit from this time off. The Galaxy may benefit from getting a chance to train with whatever players are going to replace Brugman, and sort of that was one of the problems yesterday is sort of getting everybody on the same page. That might help, but unless they scrimmage, say Galaxy 2, or maybe they arrange a scrimmage with another MLS team eliminated in the first round, they're not going to see any game action for 3 weeks. And you say, well, maybe that's good. Maybe they get to rest up. Not really. I've talked to a lot of coaches about this, and I know you read my piece last week about
Every word.
Yeah, and you studied it about what a ridiculous tournament this Leagues Cup is. Well, one of the things coaches told me is, if you play to the final, you play 7 extra games. That's a killer. But if you get eliminated in the group stage, as the Galaxy did, then you go 3 weeks without a game. Both things are bad. 3 weeks without a game, you lose your rhythm, you lose your timing.
Right.
It's like starting the season over again. If you play 7 games, you arrive at the finish line exhausted, and then you have to go back into MLS. So the Galaxy are on the front end of that. They were eliminated in the group stage. Now they sit around for 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it was funny. I was doing I was sort of talking about that. I'm like, neither one of these teams wants to be eliminated in this game. In fact, it's horrible to be eliminated in this game because you don't play for 3 weeks. You don't have a game. And quite honestly, one of the things that I was hopeful that the Galaxy could sustain was the fact that they had some momentum at the end before the break for this Leagues Cup tournament. That they had some momentum out of that, and they had something that possibly, and everybody can say, oh, well, they lost 4-2 to Vancouver. I go, yeah, but they actually, after they went down to 10 men, and after they gave up 3 goals in the first, 23 minutes, they played well in that game. They actually probably gained some confidence out of that game, showing how they did. Again, going against Vancouver, they were by far the better team against Vancouver. Not that matters, by the way. I did this whenever I saw the lineup, but if you go and look at this lineup, Kevin, go find out how many starters are really missing whenever you start playing this, right? So Dejan Joveljic is starting in place for Chicharito, right? We know that Uri Rosell is starting in place for Brugman. We know that Daniel Aguirre is starting in place for Mark Delgado. We know that Tony Alfaro is starting in place for Cáceres. You have 4 fairly high-impact starters that are not available, and you go in and you dominate a game against Vancouver? Again...
Well, what do you make of the goalkeeper situation?
Oh, Micovic. Novak has been excellent. Like, I sit there and go, okay, so he's starting next year, so how are you getting rid of everybody else? Like, what are you doing? I think he's 19. For a 19-year-old? Is that true? Is he 19? Chat room, check me, because I seem to remember that. The best distributor of the ball the Galaxy have from the goalkeeper position. Absolutely, hands down.
But what do you read into that? Because I understand in U.S. Open Cup, a lot of backup guys play, but goalkeeper is not a position where you, I think, have to worry about a lot of fatigue, maybe mental fatigue. But he played all of the, 2 Leagues Cup games. Bond appears to be healthy. Klinsmann is healthy. Yeah. I know they've had a little, dings and stuff. But
Vanny talked about it.
Yeah,
I mean, Vanny talked about it. Vanny's told us very simply, he's like, I wanted to give him a chance to get in some games. And he goes, I didn't think putting him into regular league play was a place because there's a lot of pressure in those games because of how far in the hole we are. You can't make mistakes. And, I thought this was sort of a fresh start for us. Micovic is, again, it's very small sample size.
Did he win a starting job? Does he start when they come back in 3 weeks?
No, but I'm not saying he shouldn't, right? I think that there are a lot of upsides for him. And if the Galaxy continues sort of in this way of playing well but not scoring goals and not being able to pull out results and the season slips away, I wouldn't be surprised if Micovic starts down those rest of the games. I don't think it hurts anything to play him as much or as little as you want. You have him for next year, but the Galaxy went out and spent a lot of money for him. Remember, everybody was criticizing them for putting a third goalkeeper on there. It does, I think, open up a chance if they want to do anything before this window actually closes, which is on August 2nd. If they want to do anything in the league, I think it does allow them to move a goalkeeper if somebody needs a goalkeeper, and possibly make Micovic either a 2 or, a 1.5, a 1A, 1B guy. But they went out and got this guy for a reason, Kevin. They targeted him for a reason. They brought in a third goalkeeper, I think, at $1 million transfer fee, if I remember correctly, in order to get him, right? And so Micovic is an important goalkeeper to the future of this LA Galaxy. I just don't know if that future is right now, and I don't know that you necessarily want to burn him as quickly. Maybe he's in competition for the starting spot next year whenever they start.
Well, when they come back in 3 weeks, you look at the Galaxy, they're still 13th in a 14-team conference. They got 22 points. Some of the teams ahead of them that they're chasing, Portland, they're still going to keep playing in the tournament. Vancouver, still keep playing in the tournament. A couple other teams could if they win. But the one thing with the Galaxy is they have 3 games in hand over Sporting Kansas City, which is in 11th. They have a game in hand over Portland, which is 1 spot ahead of them. They have a game in hand over Houston, which has the last playoff berth right now. So you can look at the Galaxy and say, with all the injuries and all the bad luck they've had and their form right now, maybe you start playing guys and just find out what you have for next season. But on the other hand, the Galaxy, they're still in it. They're still definitely in it.
People don't want to hear that. They have 36 possible points, right? 36 because there's 12 games remaining. They have 36.
And they're only 7 back. There's 7 out of a playoff berth, and they have a game in hand over that team. And as you said, game in hand means you need to win.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you get a free pass.
It's just a chance. But I mean, honestly, if you look at this Vancouver game, how do you feel confident that the LA Galaxy can win games right now? I mean, Riqui Puig had a great goal. It was a great passing goal. The Galaxy tore Vancouver apart. Vancouver looked like they were traffic cones, right? And Puig buries it, and you're like, this is going to be an easy night. And it was. When the Galaxy are good, they make the game boring, right? Which is the passing and everything they're doing to control possession, and they're making Vancouver chase and everything else. And I said the only thing that they missed on of execution on the game on Sunday night was scoring the second goal, was scoring the third goal, right? Was getting in there and putting the game away, because they didn't. And I think that while your eyes will tell you that the Galaxy actually played really well, still need some finishers. I thought Boyd was wasteful. I thought Jovalic was MIA again for most of the time. He did have a couple chances where he was inside the box and he couldn't get his foot on it or couldn't make the shot well. So there was that. He had a good shot in the second half. I think he was more aggressive in the second half. So Jovalic came alive a little bit there, but really you needed that for 90 minutes and not just the second half. The goal that they score, that's the own goal, is unfortunate. What are you going to... One, you don't want to put yourself in necessarily those free kick positions and everything else that are sort of in that. That's a mistake, right? And you allowed Vancouver to gain a little bit of momentum because you hadn't put them away, right? So you had 10 minutes before the game is over, and you're like, okay, good. So Greg Vanny is looking at this going, okay, we need to sort of hold the position we're at. We need to keep them from scoring. And they get that free kick, and it bounces through like 6 guys, and Caligari's just tracking back the way he's supposed to, and the ball hits him and goes into the back of the net because it was going wide. Right? That's unfortunate. That's unlucky. There's nothing that you're going to do besides not give up that free kick that allows that play to be any better, right? So that's one of those things where you're sort of like, well, that's unlucky. But then to see the second goal scored, and this one a little more, that Galaxy let that ball hang around too much. Vancouver's now pressing. They're feeling confident. They've scored the goal. It's, now you're almost into stoppage time. Vanny has made his subs already to make sure that he has the penalty kick takers that he wants. Leardam and Alvarez come on, right? And Alvarez goes to stop a bouncing ball, and he can't quite get to it, which, by the way, not his fault. It was a difficult one to get your foot to. And the ball ricochets off him into a Vancouver attacker's way. He whiffs on the ball, and he hits it, just nicks it just a little bit much, and it falls to a guy who's between two LA Galaxy guys where there's no room. Like, it's the perfect pass, except he wasn't trying to make it, right? And that ball gets in, right? And they score from there. Again, two of the most unlucky goals you're ever going to see. But why are they allowed to be in those positions and be allowed to have hope in those positions, Kevin, when the Galaxy had more than enough opportunities to put the ball away? And it comes down to quality of finishing. Tyler Boyd was poor. Douglas Costa, I didn't think was involved enough on the offensive side. Riqui Puig did well in sometimes, and his goal was great, but he could have scored maybe 2 more goals that he missed. I don't expect them to convert everything, Kevin, but what I do want to see is more chances being hit on target and more goals being converted when they get the chances, because you probably had 5 or 6 big chances for the Galaxy to sort of score goals there, and they converted one of them. And Vancouver had 0 big chances to score a goal, and they scored 2 goals.
Well, and I think the Caligari own goal I said earlier was on a corner kick. Obviously, I meant set piece, but that was a ball bouncing through traffic. He probably at some point lost track of it a little bit. That was an unlucky goal. The other one is kind of the same thing. A ball ricocheting around, just happens to land at the wrong guy's feet. The Galaxy dominated possession again, outshot Vancouver 16-10. What do you think of the fact, 16-10? What do you think of the fact that Riqui Puig had 5 of those shots? I guess maybe without a real striker like Chicharito, his role is changing a little bit, and I know he feels like he needs to take on the focus of that offense. But having Riqui take a third of the shots, that just seems high to me.
I would say that if he could have taken more shots, I would have allowed it. The Galaxy don't have finishers, and Puig can finish, right? Now, he's not the best finisher, and quite honestly, it's one of the things that's really sort of separating him from probably the upper level players in Major League Soccer. If he could start finishing, if he finishes 2 or 3 of those chances that he had last night, Kevin, and I think he had some chances to do so, he comes out as one of the best players to play in Major League Soccer. He's already in the upper echelon for what he can do. He ran Vancouver into little tiny pieces for most of that night. When you lose Brugman, Puig is going to step up and he's going to have to carry more of the load. Douglas Costa is going to have to carry more of the load, but that's it. We talk about the depth and everything there is. Daniel Aguirre, I thought, played a good game for what he was asked to do. I thought he was fine. I thought Uri Rosell had a really excellent game playing in sort of the defensive midfield. Caused a lot of problems, got into a lot of tackles, did a good job.
But that's the guy who's going to benefit from this break, by the way, because he needs to have a little bit more chemistry with his teammates. And by the way, speaking of Riqui Puig, he liked to tweet recently. You want to talk about that? He liked
a tweet that was put out by let's just say, not exactly a source I would be worried, but basically was saying that, Riqui Puig is going to decide his future in the winter. Okay. Everybody needs to calm down. He liked the tweet. He's liked tweets about stuff, but Riqui likes to like tweets with his name in it. Although I would say he's more particular than just liking anything with his name in it. I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. Remember the rumors where he was bored in LA? I think he liked that tweet too, and then they made fun of it and everything else. I've talked to some people, and basically what they're saying is that no, there's nothing where like Ricky's like, well, I'm going to decide what I think he's under contract to 2025, Kevin.
And it's a long contract.
It's a long contract, so he's still now. By the way, whenever I say that that there's not going to be like a big, I expect that there is going to be a meeting this winter with Riqui Puig, and it's going to be to sign a new contract where he's paid a lot more money than what he's being paid, because currently he's being paid, I think $1.7 million on that TAM, the max TAM contract, but he really should be getting more money than probably anybody else on the team.
But he's the DP. Remember that they made the change to DP.
They did make a change to a DP, but he didn't get any more money, right? So it doesn't really. So what did he get out of this? Not much. But I imagine they're going to make him a full DP whenever this comes around this winter in terms of his pay as well, because you can't have a guy who's dominating like he is and not paying the money that you would expect to pay him.
Well, and the tweet brings up another point: is every time Riqui Puig has a good game, he scores 2 goals or does something amazing, there are going to be tweets he's going back to Europe. Is Riqui going back? Does Riqui want to go back to Europe? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Will he go? Well, the clock is ticking, and each year that passes, he goes from being a bright young player to being
right.
a guy with a little bit of mileage on him.
Right.
He wants to go back to Europe. There's interest in Europe. I think he probably will, but doesn't mean he's going tomorrow.
No, and I don't think he's going this winter either. I think he actually really likes LA. I know people think that's crazy, but if you talk to him about it, he will very clearly say that he likes LA. He was asked about going back to Barcelona, and somebody said, hey, basically, I think Riqui, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, listen, I'd love to go back to Barcelona, but I'm not going to because they didn't give me the time. Like, that time has passed. They didn't want me. They didn't even want me for preseason to train with the club. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Barcelona, he's never going back there, as far as I can tell. Maybe eventually he would come back as sort of the triumphant conqueror of, I am this big player. You guys didn't see me, and now you want me, pay me all this money, and I'll go play for you again.
By the way, speaking of Barcelona and Galaxy players, you hear about Julian Araujo. Barcelona said, that's okay. You don't need to be with us on this preseason tour, which I don't think they said, take your vacation time. And I think Julian should have taken that as like, we don't want you around. Julian wanted to go. And now they're talking about loaning Julian out.
Yep.
That is not what Julian signed up for when he went to Barcelona.
Yeah, but that's also that's more realistic than he's going to start on Barcelona's A team here anytime soon, right? You would expect that he gets minutes with Barcelona B, but now it doesn't even seem that that's the case. Hey, they paid for him, they got him, he's theirs. Caligari has made everybody forget about Julian Araujo. Not really. Relax. God, I got so much hate mail last time I said it, and you guys don't listen. So it's one of those that you look at. I mean, so that's the thing. So Riqui Puig, by the way, expect that if Riqui keeps playing well, Kevin, that people are going to pay attention and that there will be interest and that maybe eventually the deal comes through for that. I just don't think it's this winter. So everybody just needs to calm down. And so we'll see. And by the way, Richard in the chat room says next MLS season, a 4th DP slot added. I mean, we're talking about changes, so lots of things could change whenever we get to next year because it was unlikely they were going to do anything at this midsummer meeting. Now the next time is if they're going to change anything, it's going to happen after the season, right?
Well, and it is going to happen. I think that's a good point. I would be totally surprised if there weren't major changes. Why? Because the Inter Miami thing with bringing in all those players has created this example that, look, we need to have more flexibility. If we want to bring Messi in and then Busquets and Jordi Alba and all these people want to follow him, we need to be able to react to that. So that's one thing. But the bigger thing, and all 29 MLS teams are going to be all over MLS about this Leagues Cup. Our rosters are not deep enough. They're saying we don't need to add more people. We just need to, because teams have a core of 11, 12, 13 players.
Right.
So we need to expand that. We need more money so that the 16th, 17th, 18th guy on our roster can come in and play these meaningful games and help us out. You look at a team like Manchester City played, I think, 60 games this year. How do they do that? Well, because they got guys sometimes like Kevin De Bruyne on the bench. MLS teams don't have that. So They will expand that roster and the salary cap will go up. And I think probably a 4th DP or some other TAM thing will be added. That's going to happen.
Yeah, again, Miami is very interesting because they've now got the Messi effect, which is guys coming to play for less money just to play with Messi, right? We've seen that with the LA Galaxy at times and with the people that they've had that guys come in for less money. Nigel de Jong was sort of, if I remember correctly, one of those that was sort of like, oh, well, Bruce Arena worked out a deal and they were able to get Nigel de Jong because he was getting paid by the other team that they sort of that he got released from, and then he came in, and so he was like, hey, we'll pay you, this much money, but you're living off the money you just got released from, and then next year we're going to make you a DP, remember? That was how that all sort of played out. So,
but, the Inter Miami, the team guilty of the most serious roster rules and money laundering or whatever you want to call it, they messed up a couple years ago, and they're the ones that we're supposed to believe that they're doing everything above the board now. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there was a recent thing that basically said, cheating's everywhere, and that it's just the guys who get caught. So maybe the Galaxy are so stupid that they got caught cheating. Maybe that was always been an argument. We only got 1 minute for you.
1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute. Maya Yoshida is expected to come in, and he's coming in. We already told you that at the last podcast that Maya Yoshida is coming in, and then everybody else acted like it was news the next day, like it was breaking news. We told you. So Maya Yoshida is coming in. So that's a signing. I don't know if the LA Galaxy are going to be active here at the close of the window. It'll be interesting to see, but we know that at least one free agent is coming as soon as that window closes. So Maya Yoshida, who's in LA and around. So we'll find out whether or not visa paperwork and all that fun stuff. Anything else, Kevin?
Well, another thing, that's another guy that, again, I still think this 3-week break is bad, but now there's 2 players the Galaxy are going to be able to get up to speed. Hopefully they're not getting game action, but be able to get them up to speed. I will let you know the window will close 17 hours earlier over here, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You'll know.
Yeah,
You'll just let us know.
I'll let you know if anything happens.
All right, Mr. Kevin, have a great one. There goes Mr. Kevin Baxter. We're always glad to have Kevin on the show, and he's off to cover the U.S. and Portugal, so always good there. $5 super chat from Lasso's Optimism. Bummed about the loss, but it's great to see Kevin. Love his bright optimism perspectives. Josh and Kevin have incredible work rates. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Playing a little injured tonight. But it's a lot of fun to have Kevin on, and again, that's the first time. I think we've only talked for 45 minutes here since he's gone down. He's had a lot of press events that are sort of at the same time of the podcast. It's 3:30 there now, so 3:30 p.m. Tomorrow, as he is in New Zealand right now. So he'll know the score before of the U.S. Portugal game before everybody else here will. Right? It's good. All right. Is there anything else that you guys want to cover on that game? I mean, I see the complaints, and we can talk about timing of subs and everything else. I thought the sub timing was correct. I thought bringing in Leerdam and Alvarez are 2 guys you're going to have take penalty kicks in this. I thought that was the correct move in the time that it was supposed to happen. Look at these look at the players on this roster right now. You're missing 4 starters, and they're 4 key starters. I thought the Galaxy lined up in a very good situation. The only thing that maybe I would look at is possibly Daniel Aguirre, who played great, by the way, is with Memo Ochoa, Memo Rodriguez. Slip of the tongue. Memo Rodriguez, but, Rodriguez didn't exactly have a great time whenever he came out as well. Maybe Greg's seen something out of them in there. You're going to have to make subs in this game. You're going to have to change things at the end because you have to get ready for penalty kicks. I think the Galaxy got unlucky. Vanni Sartini after the game said, I thought we deserved a tie. I didn't think we deserved to win. He goes, I think we stole that game. I think Sartini would tell you, as the ghost of Kevin appears on the screen, I think Sartini was even a little optimistic on that. Vancouver did nothing to even tie that game. I think they had one big chance at the beginning where Micovic came out and stopped somebody. And that one single sort of, play in that arena really shut down most of what Vancouver was doing. I thought the Galaxy defense was strong. I thought Alfaro played well. I thought Neil played well. That's a partnership that's still developing, but the Galaxy wanted to go out and get somebody at center back who could distribute the ball, who could pass, and could handle sort of the defensive stuff in the center. And Tony Alfaro has been that guy. He looks seamless in that. If everybody is worried about how the LA Galaxy go and replace players, look at how they've sort of replaced guys just this year. And I think so often we've talked about not having the smarts or not having the intuition or panic buying or anything like that. The Galaxy are doing the opposite of panic buying right now. You can criticize them for that, which is, hey, we're going to be super cautious about all of this. We don't want to make a wrong move. Sure, there is no such thing as sure things. You can have the best players in the world and you can bring them together. Look at Toronto. I remember being in the Discord and being on Twitter whenever Toronto signed all the Italians, right? People were freaking out. Well, they're going to win MLS Cup, blah, blah, blah. This is the great signing. This is great. And they went on and they were talking about the GM up there who was like, I just went on Football Manager and looked for expiring contracts or Transfer Market and looked for expiring contracts that were Italian. And I found them. And then I tried to put everything around them, right? I don't remember if you guys all remember the panic that you were all panicking about whenever they signed, Bernardeschi, and I forget who else they signed up in Toronto because I really don't pay attention to Toronto because they become an afterthought, much like the LA Galaxy in the league right now, an afterthought. Having said all that, you can put together the best names, the biggest names, and everything that. It's how they fit. Look at what they did with Caligari whenever they were replacing Julian Araujo. 100% pass on that, right? You nailed it. You got a guy who's better defensively, better technically, maybe not as good going forward, but I mean, by what? A couple percentage points? If the Galaxy had a striker, I think Caligari would be even more dangerous, right? Douglas Costa, if Douglas Costa was playing the way that Douglas Costa has played since he sort of decided that he wanted to play, if he was playing that way over the whole contract, we might even be talking about a contract extension. That's crazy talk to think of that now. You can't do that, right? Right, guys? You can't do that. So I look at this and say, how are the Galaxy trying to put together a team, and are they finding the right pieces when they need to find pieces? They needed to find a center back within the league that they could get. They went out and got Tony Alfaro. Alfaro fits in very nicely with the LA Galaxy. Him and Jalen Neal seem to have a nice partnership in the back. That's temporary. Maya Yoshida is probably the guy who's going to come in and start there in place of Tony Alfaro. But if you look at, Maya Yoshida, and we talked about this whenever we talked about the signing, Yoshida is very much in the same cloth of, Martin Cáceres, right? And just with the international experience, with the experience in other leagues and other things going on, Maya Yoshida is very much almost a carbon copy of what Martin Cáceres is, the veteran on the team. Again, talk about the mix. They can't all be young. That doesn't work. I think one of the things the LA Galaxy are missing the most this year is Sasha Kleshin and Victor Vasquez. As Mike Hold now decides to run up into the thing, right? So those are things that you have to keep in mind. I think the Galaxy, in what they've done recently, and again, this is the Will Kuntz era, right? And what Will's influence certainly has been on the team, or at least what I perceive his influence to be on the team, is a team that's playing with a plan in terms of who they're trying to acquire. They know the types of players. They know the types of attributes they want. They know these things, and so when they get them, they're able to plug and play. Bruce Arena was very good at doing this. Without a scouting system, Bruce Arena was very good. The scouting system was Bruce Arena. That's why. Was able to plug and play. The Galaxy would reload all the time. Listen, this is Major League Soccer. You're going to reload every single season. Major League Soccer doesn't allow you to keep teams together like you want to keep them together, because if you have to give guys raises, eventually they're going to top out on the salary cap, and you're not going to be able to do anything with them anymore, right? And unless you make them TAM or other things, right? So there's all these things that go into the effects of roster building, but I think the Galaxy are doing it correct. Right now they are. Now, does that get rid of all the years of mismanagement and things? No, but I don't think they're going to put themselves in. And we've gone over this philosophy multiple times now. You should know it. You should tell your friends, because I'm tired of explaining it. The Galaxy very clearly are in a position right now where they say, if you talk to them, we will add pieces when it makes sense for us to add the piece. We're not going to hamstring ourselves with a longer contract with a guy who doesn't fit. So the transfer brand and everything else that's going on with the LA Galaxy is limiting their ability to impact the roster this year. Chris Klein's parting gift, right? So take a look at that. Lorenzo Insigne, right? Okay. Lasagna Insigne. I like that even better. John says $10 super chat. I still don't believe there's a plan. There is a plan. It's been articulated. As a matter of fact, if you know anybody in any supporters groups or anything like that, they've been shown the plan of how this stuff is supposed to be built. How the turnover. We talked about ghost teams earlier in this season, I think. How the Galaxy are developing ghost teams. We talked about analytics department. The Galaxy are now hiring a full-time analytics person. The little steps that we've expected the Galaxy to take for years seem like they're finally taking over. So that's sort of where we sit, right? Listen, I know there's lots of people who want to fire Greg Vanney, and that's fine. You can keep saying it. In fact, I scream it till you're hoarse. I don't think changing that right now is going to affect anything. In fact, I think it hurts. This team loves Vanney. In fact, I was talking to another report about this. This team loves Greg Vanney. They love playing for him. They love his motivation. They love lots of things. If this team gets number 9 in any shape or form here, even when the window closes or anything else, if the team gets a number 9 who can score goals, this Galaxy team will make the playoffs. If they don't, then somebody has to step up out of their mind. Jovic has to put another 9, right? I saw somebody in the chat room saying, is he better? I think it was Pottermus who was saying, hey, is he better with a 99 on instead of a 9? Put an extra 9 on Jovic. Throw him out there, see if that helps. I wanted to give you the LA Galaxy schedule again. No game until August 20th when they face off against Real Salt Lake. I wouldn't be surprised if they scrimmage some teams that aren't playing as well in this 3-week span. In fact, if I'm the LA Galaxy, I figure out a way to make that happen. Yeah, it'll be just keep an eye on that. So that's August coming up. LA Galaxy versus Real Salt Lake, LA Galaxy versus Chicago, 2 home games, then away to San Jose for the 3rd time. They'll play San Jose, and then September is busy. 4 home games, 2 away games, one of those at LAFC. So really a month where the LA Galaxy are home for all but 1 game. Keep that in mind as the LA Galaxy. And I'm not saying they're better at home. I'm not saying that home is like a solution for them. But home could be the salvation in order to get to the playoffs. 36 total points available for them. 3 games in October still there. Seattle, Minnesota, away to Seattle, away to Minnesota, 2 tough games, and then home to FC Dallas on Fan Appreciation Day. Everybody loves a good Fan Appreciation Day. I just wanted to take a look at the knockout rounds. The LA Galaxy would have been drawn into the tournament playing against Tigres, right? So that would have been the next game. Vancouver gets to host Tigres instead. So just in case you're looking at where everything is and how it would have shaped out, that's where you can look. Leaguescup.com is where you can find all that. I, for one, don't have to put Ghost of Kevin up there. I, for one, and I'm very serious about this, think that Leagues Cup is a great tournament. 3 places, the top 3 places, first, second, and the winner of the third place game, all get CONCACAF Champions League berths. I think it's disappointing that the LA Galaxy couldn't have gone to at least to the knockouts and possibly even gone past that because I think that there's some real benefits to this tournament. I think the games have been exciting. I like seeing Liga MX teams and MLS teams. I think it's a lot of fun. I think that fans are going to have to grow to learn to love the tournament, but I've enjoyed watching all the games that I've watched. So I think that's really interesting. I think that's it. Christian, by the way, any thoughts on Puig taking off the captain armband near the end of the match? Yeah, I think he's ticked. How do you do that? How do you give up 2 goals in the last 10 minutes when you were winning 1-0? How do you go from winning this game and advancing to a tournament to allowing 2 fluky goals and getting eliminated from the tournament? I mean, quite honestly, it felt like the Houston game on Fan Appreciation Day there a while, where the Galaxy were winning 2-0 at halftime and lose that game 3-2. Was it 3-2? I think it was 3-2. And a dubious handball on Real Salt Lake that wasn't called that would have kept the LA Galaxy in the playoffs as well. It feels unlucky. It feels hard done. And if I'm Riqui Puig, I'm angry. I wish he's young, so I sort of imagine the impulsiveness to sort of be like, I'm taking this off because maybe he feels like he didn't deserve it. Maybe he feels like the team didn't deserve it to have it on, right? You'd have to ask him. But it doesn't make me sit there and go, oh, well, Ricky's disrespecting the captaincy and everything. Riqui Puig is going to be your captain. This is just, one of the first times he's had it on. He will be the captain. My guess is he's the captain all of next year. Riqui Puig, and by the way, he's going to be here next year. That's my full belief. Riqui Puig is the guy for the LA Galaxy. I think he likes being the guy for the LA Galaxy. I do want to clear up one thing because Marvin says, they were talking about the PA system operating, blasting music every time Vancouver scored, yet no music when the Galaxy scored. They play these games like there are fans of both teams at the game, where it's like dual hosting. So they will do music for both, and if they miss the LA Galaxy one, then it's just because they're not used to doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's very confusing for everybody, okay? This is the first time they've ever going through it. I will give everybody who's working on any of these teams a lot of leeway this particular year. We talked about it on Thursday night. Go back and listen to that a little bit, but it's not like there's some central office that's coordinating all this. It's really, a thrown together team, and the teams have to absorb all this, and God bless everybody in the LA Galaxy's front office who are just like, yeah, you have to host all these teams and all these games at Dignity Hall Sports Park, and you get to do it, and, this is part of your job, so get to it. So that's where we're at. Logan, I'd answer some of your questions, but all you ever do is say Vanny out in my DMs on Instagram. So I just, why don't you try just thinking out on some more of that stuff? I think the LA Galaxy are disappointed by this. I wasn't there to be able to talk to them afterwards, but I've talked to these guys. They know. Caligari put out on this whole thing that he was very that he was like a difficult one and really hard to explain, but we'll get better. So I really think that I think Leagues Cup is going to be a big tournament in the next 4 or 5 years. I think the money's going to be there. There's a lot of prize money. I think the chance to go to CONCACAF Champions League for the top 3 teams is a huge deal too. That's a big qualifying tournament. Almost $2 million goes to the winning team, but there's $40 million in the pot, which means $38+ million is being funneled down to all the players, that type of thing. So schedule congestion is going to be an issue, but that's one of the reasons MLS needs to make those rosters a little bit bigger. I think that gets adjusted. And also either raising the salary cap or doing something to allow teams to spend more money across broader things, right? Not just $20 million on one player, but $20 million across the entire roster. Why not? And MLS has sort of been lacking behind that. So I think that's going to do it for me right now. As my cold comes back, the coughing continues, and I'm sure the fever has returned once again. I am going to go to sleep a little bit early. Reminder, or at least an update, no show on Thursday night. And so we're going to take a little break. If the Galaxy gets some time off, I get some time off too. I have some family coming into town. And everybody knows, big weekend for Josh. It is Taylor Swift weekend. Saturday night. So if you're at Saturday night at SoFi Stadium, holler at your boy. I already got my T-Swizzle t-shirt ready to go. All right. So thank you, Gary. $5 super chat. I will feel better. I appreciate that. I hope everybody has a wonderful time, a good week. As somebody said, and I meant to clip it and I forgot to do it, but they're like, hey, let's get into some good mental health. Let's get into some good eating habits. Let's try to make ourselves real healty, because in 3 weeks, the LA Galaxy will return and make our lives a living hell again. So I agree with that. Take a little mental health break. If you want to keep DMing me Vanny out, you can, for all of you guys on Instagram, but maybe not. Maybe don't do that. All right. So enjoy a little bit of time off. We'll be back probably next Monday night is what I'm guessing right now. All right. I think that about does it for me. LA Galaxy on a little break. We'll be on a little break as well. We'll update you on when the next podcast is, but no podcast on Thursday night. All right. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast on Twitter and Threads. At KBaxter11 is Kevin's Twitter. And of course, you can head over to LATimes.com for his coverage of the Women's World Cup. And anybody who poo-pooed talking about the Women's World Cup at the beginning of the show, kindly sit down, grab yourself a frosty beverage, and think about the sins of your life. All right. For Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato. Guess when you've been listening, you've been watching to our little corner of the galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.